There are silences that weigh heavier than screams. These are not silences of peace. They are silences of fear. Silences imposed by force. Silences that are passed down from mother to daughter, like a curse. Today we travel to the heart of Michoacán, to a land of incredible beauty and cruelty that hides in plain sight. We are going to talk about the most silenced mothers in Mexico. Peasant women who were forced to share not only their homes and food, but also their husbands with their own sisters. This is the story of a brutal tradition disguised as custom, and of the cowardice of a system that, knowing the truth, chooses to turn a blind eye. I am Padre del Valle, and this is Realidad Mexico. Before we enter these cornfields, which are also fields of pain, I ask you to pause for a moment. What you are about to hear is not easy. It is the voice of women who have had everything stolen from them, even the natural rivalry between sisters, if you believe these stories should be told. If you are outraged that tradition is used as an excuse for barbarism, if your heart refuses to accept silence as an answer, then subscribe. Become part of the echo that breaks down these walls, because indifference is an accomplice to all crimes. Now, walk with me. The ground we walk on is covered in tears. It all started with a census form, an official document, cold, impersonal. The person holding that piece of paper was called Sofia Mendez. She was a social worker, a recent graduate. She was 24 years old and had an unshakable belief that the world could be a better place. A belief that the system is responsible for demolishing, piece by piece. She had been sent to the mountains of Michoacán, a remote community, the kind that only appears on maps when there are elections or tragedies. Her job was simple: conduct a census for a new federal support program. Names, ages, needs. Day after day, she walked along dirt paths. She visited adobe and tin houses. She heard stories of poverty, of abandonment. Everything was sadly normal, until she began to notice a pattern, an anomaly that didn't add up. In a small ranch called El Silencio, she found 3 houses next to each other. In the first one lived a woman named Guadalupe Solorzano, 30 years old, with 4 children. On paper, she was listed as a single mother. In the second house lived her sister, Veronica Solorzano, 26 years old, 3 children, also a single mother. In the third house lived the youngest sister, Patricia Solorzano, 22 years old, 2 children, single mother, 3 sisters, 9 children with no registered father. But the children did not resemble their mothers. They all had the same dark eyes, the same strong jawline. They all looked alike. And in the community, everyone knew who the father was. One man, the local chieftain, Arturo Cienfuegos, the name that no one dared write on an official document. But everyone whispered it with a mixture of fear and respect. Sofia felt a twinge of unease. This was no coincidence. This was a system. She checked the census records of the nearby ranches, and the pattern repeated itself. Families of sisters, with children who shared the same features. And always, at the center of the web, a powerful man, a landowner, a community leader, the owner of the land, and it seemed also of the women. Sofia folded the census papers. The afternoon sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky orange and violet, a beauty that hid something rotten. She decided she couldn't just be an observer. She couldn't just fill out forms. She had to understand. She had to see. That decision would change her life forever. and it would put her in the crosshairs of men who do not forgive those who break the silence. She chose Guadalupe's house, the older sister. One afternoon, she showed up at her door. The house was humble, but impeccably clean. The dirt floor was swept in circular patterns. A small altar with a Virgin Mary in one corner. Guadalupe greeted her with cold courtesy. Her hands, rough from working in the fields, never stopped moving, straightening a napkin, cleaning an invisible stain on the table. Sofia asked her questions about the government program. Guadalupe responded with monosyllables. Yes, number maybe. Her eyes did not meet Sofia's. They stared at a fixed point on the wall, or through the open door, toward the house next door, her sister's house, the other wife. Suddenly, her younger sister, Patricia, entered the house without knocking. She was carrying a baby in her arms. She saw Sofia and stopped dead in her tracks. A look of panic crossed her face. She looked at Guadalupe. A silent communication passed between them. A warning message. Sofia tried to smile. Hello, I'm Sofia, the social worker. Patricia didn't answer. She just nodded, holding the baby close to her chest. The air in the small room became thick, heavy, like the air before a storm. That's when he arrived. Arturo Cienfuegos. He didn't enter as a visitor. He entered as the owner. He was a man in his 50s, strong. The sun had tanned his skin. He had an easy smile, but his eyes didn't smile. They were cold, calculating, the eyes of a predator. Do we have visitors? He said, his voice echoing in the small space. Guadalupe stiffened. Patricia lowered her gaze. The women's silence was their answer. Sofia introduced herself. She explained the reason for their visit. Arturo listened, studying her from head to toe. Ah, the government people, he said with a mocking tone. They come, they ask questions, and then they leave. And nothing changes here. He approached Patricia. He caressed the baby's cheek. A gesture that should have been tender, but was an act of possession. My nephew, he said, looking directly at Sofia. A strong boy. Good blood. The lie was so blatant, so brutal, that Sofia's mouth went dry. Nephew. She decided to take a risk. Mr. Cienfuegos, in the census records, these families appear without a father. It's curious, because all the children in the area look a lot like you. The silence that followed was absolute. Arturo's smile faded. His eyes hardened into two pieces of obsidian. Guadalupe let out a small moan of fear. Arturo took a step toward Sofia. Miss, he said, his voice now a dangerous whisper. You're new here. You don't understand our customs. There are some things a city girl shouldn't stick her nose into. He paused. For your own good. The threat was not veiled. It was a sentence. Guadalupe took her by the arm. Her hand was shaking, but her grip was strong. It's too late, miss. You have to go. She was throwing her out. To protect her. Sofia left that house. The sun was setting. Arturo Cienfuegos' long shadow stretched from the doorway, covering her. She felt marked. That night, she couldn't sleep. She paced around the small room she rented in the village. Every creak in the house made her jump. Around midnight, she heard a soft knock on her door. Her heart raced. She thought of Arturo. She opened the door with trembling hands. It was Guadalupe. She was alone, wrapped in her shawl like a ghost. Forgive me, she whispered. I shouldn't have treated you like that. She came in and sat down on the edge of the only chair. And then she began to speak, and the horror that Sofia had only sensed took shape. It's not a custom, said Guadalupe, her voice breaking. "It's a prison." She told her story. Her story. She had married Arturo at 16. It was a marriage arranged by her father. Arturo was the richest man in the region. The marriage secured the future of her family. They had 4 children, 3 girls and a boy. After the last one, the doctor told her she couldn't have any more. Her body was exhausted. Another pregnancy would kill her. For Arturo, that was unacceptable. He wanted more children, more boys, more hands to work his land, more heirs for his little kingdom. One night, his own father came to see her, He sat at the same table where he was now talking to Sophia. And he told her that they had made a decision. "Your sister Veronica is of marriageable age," her father said, without looking her in the eye. "She is pretty, strong, healthy. She will give Arturo the children you can no longer give him." Guadalupe's breath caught in her throat. She felt as if the ground were opening up beneath her feet. Her sister, Veronica, the girl she had played with, the one she had braided her hair. She begged, she cried, she knelt down, she told her father that it was a sin, an abomination. Her father slapped her. "Your duty is to obey," he shouted. "Your sister's too. It's for the good of the family, so that the land doesn't fall into other hands." 2 weeks later, Veronica moved into the house next door. There was no wedding. There was no ceremony. One night, Arturo simply didn't come back to Guadalupe's bed. And the next morning, she saw him leave her sister's house. The pain was so great that she thought she was going to die. But the worst part wasn't the pain. It was the silence. Having to see her sister every day, seeing her belly grow with her husband's child, having to smile at family gatherings, pretending that everything was normal, that they weren't rivals, that they were still sisters. When Veronica couldn't have any more children either, they repeated the horror with the younger sister Patricia. The same conversation, the same threats, the same forced obedience. Now there were 3 of them. 3 sisters sharing one man, united by blood and separated by the same bed. "He controls everything," said Guadalupe, and the tears she had held back for years finally ran down her face. "He decides what we eat, how we dress, who we talk to. If one of us complains, he punishes us all. He leaves us without money, or he hits us." She pointed to a yellowish bruise on her arm that her shawl couldn't cover. "We live in fear. Fear of him. Fear of our parents, who sold us. Fear of our neighbors, who live the same way and say nothing. We hate ourselves. And sometimes we hate each other. And that's the worst part. He stole even our sisterly love." She finished speaking. The only sound in the room was her muffled sobs. Sophia was paralyzed. The cold wasn't coming from the mountain night. It was coming from the horror of the story she had just heard. She felt the floor sticky under her feet, a bitter, metallic taste in her mouth. She wanted to hug Guadalupe, tell her that everything would be okay. But it would be a lie. Nothing was okay. This wasn't custom and tradition. It was slavery, torture, a feudal system in the 21st century. And she, with her forms and her naive faith, had stumbled upon the heart of darkness. With Guadalupe's testimony burning in her memory, Sophia knew she couldn't stand idly by. The next morning, she traveled to the municipal capital. Her first destination, the police headquarters. A small concrete building with peeling walls, it smelled of sweat and stale coffee. The commander, a burly man named Salinas, listened to her with a mixture of laziness and disdain. Sophia told him everything: the forced polygamy, the violence, the threats from Arturo Cienfuegos. The commander leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. He yawned, a long, loud yawn that he made no attempt to hide. "Look, miss," he said, cleaning his fingernail with the tip of a paper clip. "You're from the city. Things are different there." He paused to emphasize his point. "Here in the mountains, we have our arrangements. What Mr. Cienfuegos does in his house with his women is his business. They're adults. They're not kidnapped." "They're coerced," Sophia replied, feeling anger begin to boil inside her. "They live under threat. That's a crime." The commander chuckled. "A crime?" "Miss, the only crime here would be if I entered Don Arturo's house without a warrant, and no judge is going to give me one based on gossip. Besides, Don Arturo is a pillar of the community. He helps people a lot." He stood up, ending the conversation. "Let me give you some advice. Stick to your census papers and don't look for trouble where there isn't any. This area can be dangerous for curious people." Sophia left the police station. The sunlight seemed harsh. The commander's threat, so similar to Arturo's, echoed in her ears. It wasn't just one man. It was a system of complicity. Power protecting power. She didn't give up. Next stop, the DIF office, the System for Integral Family Development, a small office inside the municipal palace. She was attended by a middle-aged woman, the director, Ms. Figueroa. Her desk was cluttered with papers. She had the tired look of someone who has lost every battle. Sophia told her the story again. This time, she focused on the children, on the violent environment in which they were growing up. The director listened, nodding occasionally. She took notes on a pad. When Sophia finished, she sighed. It was the sigh of defeat. "Miss Mendez, your report is very serious," she said in a subdued voice. "But my hands are tied." She opened a drawer and took out an organizational chart. "Look, in order for me to intervene, I need a formal complaint, a psychological evaluation of the victims, sworn testimony. Without that, anything I do will be dismissed by a judge. But they're afraid to report it. If they talk, Arturo will kill them," said Sophia, desperate. "I know. Believe me, I know. I see cases like this all the time." His voice broke for a moment. "But the system isn't designed to protect victims. It's designed to protect itself. Rules are rules. What I can do is record your visit on Form 304-B as a report of possible family vulnerability. It will be filed away, and if, God forbid, something worse happens in the future, that piece of paper will serve to show that it was already known." He handed her the form. Sophia looked at it. The paper felt like a tombstone. It was not a tool to help her. It was a bureaucratic alibi, a document to justify future inaction. "Fill in all the fields, please," said the director, her voice monotonous again. "And don't forget to sign, otherwise it's not valid." Sophia felt nauseous. The cold indifference of the police officer was one thing, but the powerlessness dressed up as procedure was somehow much worse. It was the friendly face of the same cruelty. She made one last desperate attempt. She traveled to the state capital, Morelia. She got an appointment at the State Human Rights Commission. The building was modern, air-conditioned, a world apart from the dusty mountains. She was received by a visitor, Mr. Ochoa, a young idealistic man, like her, or like she had been until a few weeks ago. He listened to her story with an attention that gave her back a glimmer of hope. He was outraged. He said all the right words. This is unacceptable. It's a form of modern slavery, a flagrant violation of human rights. For a moment, Sophia thought she had found an ally. Then Mr. Ochoa sat down at his computer. He began to type. "We're going to open a complaint file," he said in a determined tone. "We'll start an investigation. We will request reports from the municipal police, the DIF, the municipal president's office." As he spoke, Sophia's hopes deflated. Reports, requests, official letters, the language of bureaucracy that leads nowhere. "And then?" Sophia asked. Ochoa stopped typing. He looked at her. His young face already had a hint of cynicism. "And then, with all that information, if we can prove the rape, we will issue a recommendation." "A recommendation?" Sophia repeated. "Yes, it's our most powerful tool. We will recommend that the authorities take action on the matter, that they design a protocol, that they train their staff. But does the recommendation oblige them to act? Can you rescue those women?" Mr. Ochoa looked down. It's not binding. It's a moral wake-up call. A moral wake-up call. Against a man like Arturo Cienfuegos. Against a rotten system of complicity. It was like trying to knock down a concrete wall with a breath. Sophia stood up. She thanked the lawyer. An empty, automatic thank you. She left the modern building and the air conditioning. The heat of the street hit her like a slap in the face. The truth was inescapable. There was no help. There was no justice system for women like Guadalupe, Veronica, and Patricia. The system was designed precisely so that their cries would never be heard. Sophia returned to the mountains, defeated. The news of her visits to the authorities had arrived before her. Arturo Cienfuegos was waiting for her. Not in his office, in the town square. In full view of everyone. He didn't yell at her. He didn't threaten her directly. He did something worse. He approached her with a fake smile. "Miss Mendez?" he said in a low voice, so that only she could hear him. "I hear you've been very busy in the city, talking about my family, about my women." He paused. "I hope you enjoyed your trip. Because it's the last one you'll ever take. Your work here is done. You have 24 hours to pack your things and get out of here. If you're still here tomorrow at dawn, I won't be responsible for your safety. Or for the safety of the gossip who filled your head with lies." He looked over Sophia's shoulder, toward the street where the Solorzano sisters lived. The threat against Guadalupe was clear. Sophia felt a chill of terror. She saw the faces of the people in the square. No one was looking at her. They had all found something very interesting to look at on the ground, in the sky, anywhere but at her. She was alone. That night, she packed her few belongings. Her hands were shaking so much that she could barely fold her clothes. Every shadow seemed like a threat. Before leaving, she wrote a note. She left it under Guadalupe's door. "I'm sorry. I did everything I could. Don't give up." Empty words, useless. She drove her old car down the dark road, away from the mountains. In the rearview mirror, she saw the lights of the town disappear, and she cried. She cried for Guadalupe, for Veronica, for Patricia. He cried for the children growing up in that prison of silence. He cried for his own lost innocence, and for a country where justice is a luxury that poor women cannot afford. The story has no ending, because it continues to happen. Today, tomorrow, in the mountains of Michoacán and in so many other places in Mexico. The Solorzano sisters continue to live in their adjoining houses. They continue to share a man, a life of fear, and a silence that consumes them from within. The system that was supposed to protect them abandoned them and condemned them to remain the most silenced mothers in Mexico. I am Padre del Valle, and I will see you in the next Realidad Mexico.